Hey, it's Kendrick, and so today I have the honor of sitting down with a different type of a security professional. So this is Corey White, CEO and co-founder of Cyvatar, and also a little bit of a personal thing because Corey is actually my first cousin. So which
Mhm.
means my mother and his father are brother and sister. So this is an honor for me to be able to actually sit down and interview on my YouTube channel my cousin who has served as a mentor for me. Now, Corey, you have a very extensive history in cybersecurity.
Yes.
You didn't just start a company. And so the point of my YouTube channel is to encourage people to get into cybersecurity
hmm
and to give them tools and inspiration and everything necessary to get them to take those steps to become cybersecurity professionals. But let's go ahead and let's back up just a little bit because
hmm
I had a bit of a misconception about you and how you got to where you were. So for me growing up, it's my big cousin Corey, and Corey aced every test and he, crossed every T and dotted every I. But we were having a conversation a couple of days ago,
hmm
and you kind of informed me that you were very different. And I guess the thing is, we never really sat down and kind of talked like we did
Right.
the other night. So
Right.
you were telling me a little bit about your views and how college and stuff like that. So for all the people that are trying to get into cybersecurity and they may not be your stereotypical great test taker and stuff like that. Tell me a little bit about your history,
hmm
college, and the path that you took towards becoming a cybersecurity professional and ultimately CEO and co-founder of Cyvatar.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. What I talk about now is not what I used to talk about. So that's why I didn't tell you
Uh-huh.
all that stuff back in the day.
Uh-huh.
But you get a little bit older and you start just living your truth, your authentic self. Not
Hmm.
that I was necessarily hiding it. I just wanted to, just talk about my experience so people
Hmm.
could actually learn from it.
Yes.
So, in college, I actually intentionally was a C student. I did not actually strive to have that 4.0 because what I realized in college, I had actually a pretty good friend of mine, and he was an amazing people person.
Hmm.
And so we would go anywhere. He would strike up conversations, and then I had a girlfriend who was an amazing people person as well, and I wasn't that great at that.
Okay.
And so I spent time in the computer lab and studying. I looked at the other people in the computer lab. They were not great people persons either. They could not actually communicate very well. And so I started noticing the power of being able to communicate. And I figured I need to know how to do that. That was way more powerful relationships, but way more powerful than having a 4.0. And also, I looked at some of the best, computer programming. I'm dating myself completely. We were programming in COBOL, and that's very, very old language, but back in the '90s. But I realized that I don't want to be like that COBOL programmer that could sit there and just program, but could not communicate.
Hmm.
So I actually did a shift in college. About halfway through, I stopped focusing as much on the grades themselves, and I started focusing on building relationships, getting to know people, and learning more about life than actually the grades. So I actually intentionally graduated with a 2.0 in college. That was
I think
the
most of us would think that's a little bit low.
yeah, exactly. That I tried to go a little bit higher, but at the end of the day, I just need to get a degree. That was my
Mhm.
mindset to get that paper. And so once I did that, then but it doesn't back up a little bit. The other thing, while I was getting that 2.0, I was working on my interpersonal skills. I also became president of the business fraternity.
With the 2.0.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
I had to make sure that you actually could do it with that GPA, and you actually could. So, but that's where I learned to run a chapter, run a business, because it was like a business. And those skills, at least for me personally,
Mhm.
were way more important than learning a programming language. Because anybody that's ever programmed, you realize that programming is just logic. And so you can just logically think through that.
Mhm.
And the language itself is not that hard. Now, you fast forward to today, you don't actually need to know how to program.
Agreed.
So it's interesting that I'm glad I figured it out 20 something years ago that, hey, I want to learn business skills, people skills versus programming.